All right, here we go. We're back. I don't think we ever have a show without some technical difficulty.
Well, when you leave us to do this by ourselves and we're not being held accountable by a guest, so we don't have to look that good.
Yeah, Seth.
Or that put together, right? Where normally a guest shows up and we're like, oh, the lights are on, the cameras are rolling.
Where the hell is Seth?
But when you leave us by ourselves,
I know.
Completely different ballgame.
So, what do you think of 24, Danny? How do you think we did?
Episode wise, I think 24. I don't want to, I think we had a really, really great 2023, but I think we upped our game a little bit in 2024.
I agree. And I think 25 is going to be even better. Just wait till you see who we come rolling through these walls.
I know, I'm really happy that we started 25 with a solo episode.
That's actually, now that I think about it, that's kind of cool.
I think that we've been rolling, we've been so fast and furious the last 2 years since we started the podcast that, John, we really haven't had time to just catch up, you and I. So, and we don't catch up that often anymore.
I know between your whole staff travels. You guys define road warrior.
Yeah, we got this email the other day. Well, Joe got this email, and it was from upper leadership, and they were like, "All right, everyone, you need to take 1 week off of traveling a month."
Good for them.
But that means we're on the road the rest of the 3 weeks of the month. So it was like
they give you a week.
Yeah, I was like, 1 week sounds great at this point, right?
I mean, the way you guys have been. I mean, I follow because I work with Tanya and I work with you on the podcast, so I follow you guys in the amount of travel. It's brutal. When I was doing airports, I did a lot of traveling, but nothing like you guys.
Yeah, I just don't hear any honking in my.
Oh yeah, we got to get the garage sound.
Yeah, I was like,
you guys hear that? We're back in the parking garage.
We were walking.
Somewhere
we were taking our time.
in a mile-high city near you.
I love all the intros that we have. But yeah, and how's the start? I know that you guys have had a really busy. You were incredibly busy at the end of 2024, but your start to 2025, it seems like your team has hit the ground running as well. I walked in and you got new team members.
Yeah,
you got new additions. You got some executive leadership additions.
That's right. We brought Todd Tucker on.
You did.
I remember if you go back and listen to the episodes, I said we were working on something, but I couldn't say. That was it. That was one of the things. Yeah.
But. Well, it's great to have Todd in Mile High City for sure. More often.
Is. So great addition. Glad to have him. Obviously already contributing. So I think one of the other things we announced is the I don't want to call it reimagined, but the reinvention or the reintroduction.
Can't call it reimagined.
Exactly. But PRS engaged world marketing firm out of the UK.
That's right. Yeah, congratulations.
Put out a press release back in the fall and working with them ever since. So we've just outgrown that logo, our existing logo. PRS has been around for 23 years, and parking revenue recovery services doesn't describe
what you guys do to the extent. Yeah.
I mean, we're always going to do the core business, although debt collection is not a part of that. It's really not, obviously most of the notices that we issue are in our own name. So we're just collecting payments for.
Well, and I think there's a lot to be proud in, John, for growing, PRS from where it was to where it is now. And you've outgrown that. And that's something to be really proud of. So congratulations. And I know it's a collective effort from your team and your parent company now to say the least, but that's huge. So
yeah, it's been kind of exciting getting to the different stages the last 3 years. And this is just another evolution in our process. So, I think the new name is pretty exciting. I can't wait to.
You can't give us a little hint.
But I can't wait to. We're probably going to have our soft rollout of the name at our expo, and then IPMI.
When is the expo?
It's
April. It's usually in April, right?
Early March.
March, April. Okay.
Yeah. So Probably you're hearing about it there. And then, of course, IPMI will be our launch point.
Are you guys going to Inner Traffic in Mexico City this year?
So I don't go. Yeah, no.
Why?
I go to Amsterdam.
What do you have against Mexico City,
I don't have anything
John?
against Mexico City. I don't know. People have always told me that the one in Amsterdam is the one to go to. So
I'm gonna.
Are you going?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Mexico City.
That'll be fun.
Beautiful city, great food.
I think the closest I've ever been to Mexico City is Veracruz, which is on the coast, and I think it was like an hour drive. I could be wrong, so I'm sure somebody will correct me, but I think it's like an hour drive over the mountains into Mexico City.
You know, anyone could fact check us, so we're...
Good luck with that. Anyway, back to 24 I thought was great. I think we had a lot of cool guests. I think the overall message, as we always try to get through to the industry, is obviously collaboration has been a topic.
Right.
Women in parking, trying to spotlight women and their successes and achievements, and kind of highlighting that. So I think we had some great women on the program. We had business owners, we've had executives and people that have climbed the ladder and their careers. So I think we had a good round there. And I think we're going to continue that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a great lineup for 2025, and it's nice that we get some mic time to ourselves before we start bringing on our amazing guest through for the year.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh God, I'm so nervous.
So, what was your favorite episode of?
Oh, okay. That's not what I didn't. That's
I know,
not where I thought
thinking,
it was going.
Whoa.
I don't. You know, it's really funny. I like had this thought the other day. I was like, I feel like this question is coming from John. I knew that you were actually going to ask me this.
See, you know me.
I know, because I knew we were doing the solo episode. So, to be honest, oh my God, every episode that we've done is so unique in its own way.
I agree.
And I think that we're pretty open and honest here on this show. And
absolutely.
So there's not one guest where I was like, oh, that fell flat. Like, I think that like every single episode, like I've learned something from everybody that we've had on, and it's been fun and it's been different, and it's like, I feel like it's been very diverse in a sense of like topics and just the things that we talk about. I actually loved having your brother on. I think that was probably one of my favorite episodes, just because going into talking about something that I knew nothing about. Like, I don't know everything about parking, let's get that straight, but I learned so much from that episode on just like on a few different levels. So that was really fun. It
was pretty wild for me because I felt like I knew, and I had family members respond, and all of us said the same thing. We felt like we knew our brother's career and all the paths, but we really didn't.
Yeah. To
be honest with you, once you start hearing some of the stories, and clearly I got out ahead a couple times, and I was completely wrong half the time. That's not the way it went down, Jake.
As we normally do with family, right? But I think it was really exciting. Like, I think we talk about parking day in and day out, and obviously this show is called All Things Parking. But it was really fun to talk about something completely outside of that.
I mean, he was whipping off names.
Yeah.
And I know you were more in tune with the names he was dropping, but
of course,
when we have guests on here and they drop names, it's like, oh yeah, I know that person. I know that person. I didn't have a freaking clue.
Different industries,
right?
Yeah. So different industries. Yeah.
That was cool fun for me too. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite episode, and just the personal nature of it, because I spent so much time at SB Plus.
Yeah. Oh, with Mark Bauman.
And I'm not taking away from any of the episodes, because I agree with you. I learned a lot from a lot of different people. I mean, Alan Lazowski's show, I've heard his story before, but
I've never heard it. It's incredible.
You think this goes back to what I just said about my brother. You think you know things, and then when you hear it from the person, I've never heard that story from Alan himself, so it was completely different. I've heard the renditions of it through other people, but not from Alan himself. So I would have to say it was Mark Bauman. I definitely got the most feedback that I've ever gotten from one of our shows. And honestly, I think the industry, at least the wide net that we have that worked at SP Plus over the years, I think a lot of people got to see Mark in a different light. And I think it was kind of cool. It was for me.
And a lot of the time, to nobody's surprise that's listening, right? Like we go into our interviews, we go into these into our recordings with just a clean slate. Like we don't go in with a full on prepared list of questions for a reason, right? Because we want the conversation. We want it to be conversation. We want it to lead to wherever it's going to go. So there are a lot of things, even sometimes people are like, well, why didn't you ask that? Why didn't you ask that? And like, there are a few things that like, I feel like after like have been missed, but I love going into like the conversation, just getting to know the people on a just very like basic level. And so like getting to know like Alan and Mark and just from like a base level was really, really cool. And so I think you're right. Like those were some really fun episodes. And I think one of the other ones, and
I've actually kept in touch with Mark since then.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed the conversations and, totally thankful that I got to do that. It was pretty cool.
I 100% agree. And I think the setting was really cool. The setting was fun and it was cool. And we did it outside of our studio.
Las Vegas.
And we did it outside of our studio. So it was like a little uncomfortable, but comfortable. And it was, we're comfortable behind the mic, but we're not comfortable outside of our studio to say. But
so, though, that kind of brings up, so we've joined the podcast network with Parking Today. And I think we're doing a show at Pi.
In April.
It'll be our first, it's not going to be a live show, but it'll be a live show, and it'll be a show in front of a live audience.
Correct.
So I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm excited.
I got some pricing, and we got a surprise person coming for that. So if you're not going to Pi, I think you should probably rethink that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. It's bringing it's not just us, right? The Parking Podcast Network that from Parking Today is a collaboration of.
It's a great idea. I mean, obviously, if you see what's going on with presidential politics and everything, like podcasts really played a role in the campaigns, and now there's podcasters that are in the White House press briefing room. So we're not that level, but it's come on.
level.
That's because we're doing this. I meant we're doing this part time, man.
I know.
Wait till you hear. We're going to talk about our goals. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Short term and long.
It's going to be Pi's going to be a little bit different. There's a little bit. It's a different flair this year. We have, a lot of the different podcast hosts showing up for this, right?
There's a podcast row, and there's going to be all the people that are in the network, and they'll be doing their thing. I don't know what they're planning, but I know what we're planning. We're planning I got a whole production crew coming in and
at least
setting
you know
up.
what we're planning, because
it's going to be like my brother's putting it all together.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be like a Fox News studio. That's what I want.
We're going to welcome Chris back with open arms.
It's going to be, and actually he'll be there, but he'll be working. He'll be doing all the stuff that makes sure all those people that we hire
Chris back.
Do the right thing. So
we got lots of exciting things.
I'm not going to blow that for Parking Today, but I'll let them announce that when they want.
Have another beer and we could get it out of you.
No, I'm pretty good at secrets these days.
These is 2025 goal, John.
Some secrets.
Keeping secrets.
Snitches get stitches. Anyway, so that's exciting. It's great to be a part of that. I think again we gave Kevin a shout out. I think he was in 2024. He was one of the episodes. I think it's great what he's doing. I think he's ahead of the curve, and good for Parking Today. I mean, I think it's great. Podcasts are going to play a role, and
we're so excited. But and I think that there are a few new podcasts in the industry, and I was so happy and excited to see, because I think that there needs to be more light shed on what we do, and this will kind of like lead us into kind of the original topic that we wanted to talk about, right?
It will. We're getting there.
But I'm really excited. Like, I'm excited because every show has a different. It's just a different feel, different flavor, like different topics, just a different vibe. And so
what is
I
your
think
goal for the show for 25?
We're just.
You got to give me so there's a short-term goal of 25, and then there's your long-term goal.
Well, I think
I have.
I mean, I know I don't. I can't say. I think first and foremost, a short-term goal is obviously my time management. I need to work on being, even though.
Oh, by the way, Dani was on time and I was late.
Yes.
So she's got credit, at least an hour.
At least.
She was here, but again, busy.
My time management is a 2025 goal all around, like just in general, but especially here. Like, people's time is fucking precious, especially in our industry.
Ooh, Dani swore. Did you hear that? Usually it's just me.
Anyway, and so, and I think I want to bring some really, not that we bring great content to our listeners and to the industry, but I want to dig deep, and I want to bring some really cool shit too.
So just tell me if you agree. I think this year we tried to, at least one of my goals was to kind of highlight success, to kind of show people that no matter if you're in parking, whatever industry you are, success kind of looks the same. Like the core principles of success are all the same. So we heard from the NFL, Mark Jackson, right? I mean, the guy worked hard. He filled pennies up in his vest and didn't go to fraternity parties and, all that stuff. And so, and then there's my brother who did his thing. And I think, I mean, there's people in parking that are super successful, but they work their ass off.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that it doesn't look the same. Success definitely looks different depending. But the basics of success, I think are
the principles.
The principles are
the core
very
values
much,
of success
absolutely.
All carry the same bullet points. And that's what I hope we got across to people.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I think we highlighted was how much harder it is for women.
Yeah. And I think that it still is. Like, I think we're going to be
different
having
challenges than,
I think that we're going to be having that conversation for a long time, right? Like, that's not going to change. And I think it's about the women in parking who are leading the charge and being the leaders and giving us the leadership that we need for, to make sure that we continue to succeed as women in this industry. And so I think that that's important. Like, that's a topic that we're going to be talking about for as long as we have this podcast.
Do you have a long-term goal for the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Of course. What is it? I mean, we're taking this. I'm
going to reveal my long-term goal.
Okay, so now I'm going to flip the script here. What are your short-term and your long-term goals for the show? Let's hear it.
So my short-term goal, which would probably cover this year, is to focus, as you just said, deep dive. We focused on success last year to try to shed some light and help some folks understand. And I think this year, the focus, hopefully, the message we'll have a message of the show. Maybe we don't have it right now, but we will have another message that will surround the guests that we bring on strategically and can help define whatever we want to define. Right? Mm-hmm. And so if it makes, for example, if our goal is to bring the industry together, bringing the industry together, like closer together to make us stronger, I think that would be one of my goals. And how do we do that? We try to highlight as many topics where we show that, going out on your own and operating in a silo in an industry like ours, which will lead us to the next topic, is not a good thing for anybody. It may be a short-term vision that you have, but in the long run, it's not good.
Yeah.
So that would be something. I think my long-term goal, I think I've shared this with you, but
you have multiple times.
So my long-term goal is, this is good. So I've said to people have always said, "Oh, do you want to retire?" I'm like, I don't ever want to retire.
Right.
Like, I'm just not that guy. Like, what are you going to do? You can only golf so much. You can only sit around the house too much. You probably drink too much. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I got to keep moving. I got to keep my brain moving. I want to keep helping somebody in some way become a successful business person. But now I'm focused on this show. So
hey,
I want to take this show to a different level. So I feel like if I can, in the next couple of years, if I, whatever, exit my business and, maybe that's retirement or who knows what it looks like. And maybe it's 3 years from now. I don't know. I'm not.
I love your timeline.
Don't anybody put a timeline and hold me to it. Like, you said you were leaving in 2 years.
So
bye.
Your next 3 years to me is like, I still got like 20 years left.
Yeah, who knows? But I want to take this show to a different level. So I want to be able to, once I leave and not working for the company anymore in some capacity, that's when things get really...
Right.
That's when things really cook up around here, because I could sit here and talk about shit that we probably would never talk about just because, right?
Yep.
And I think we have the personalities and the banter back and forth to do that. So my long-term goal is to take this show to a whole new level. So
well,
what does that look like? That looks like a new studio. It looks like my brother has a recording studio in New York. So
count me in, I'll be there.
So my goal is to bring him to Denver, build out his new studio. So you've got that going on. And then you have all the gold platinum albums and the platinums and all that shit. At any given time, his studio will have like a two-way mirror. So like the guests of our show that come in, they can see through who's in there, and who the hell knows who's going to be in there, right? There could be some superstar in there at any given time. And then you have 2 podcast studios that are for rent. So we would rent out to other podcasters those, and then we'd have our studio that we wouldn't rent out because that'll be too cool for school.
Too valuable, John.
So that, and then to be involved in to have both presidential candidates on our show.
I love that goal. I think that's great.
So some people might say that's too lofty, but that shit is going to happen.
Do you remember when we were sitting at like on the opposite ends of the table, and someone was like, "Oh, you guys should have a podcast," and we're like, sure. And here we are.
Yeah.
2 years later.
That shit is going to happen, number one. Yep. So number 2, some people have said, "Oh, well, you'll have to change the name of the podcast." Bullshit. I mean, have you seen some of these names? Like, what's that one Camilla Harris was on? Daddy Come Home or something?
Oh, my God.
Daddy Good Night? What does that fucking mean?
Call her daddy is what
Call her daddy. Oh, my God.
Daddy Good Night.
Yeah, Daddy Good Night. I don't know what the hell it is, but, like, do you think that name matters? I mean, hell no. It's about that we could call this whatever the hell we want. It could be the No Name Podcast.
I mean,
it's all about you and I and the content that we bring to the table, right? Yes. So all things parking with Dani and John, no, hell no, we're never changing that.
Oh, no,
and
of course
yes, the presidential candidates will be on all things parking.
Well,
so everyone is hearing that now. So just stay fucking tuned.
February 4th, you heard it here first.
You did.
2025.
You did. That's another goal.
I love it because I think that when we first started, like, we didn't have, like, we were just like, let's see where this goes. Yeah, we were like, let's see where this goes. Let's see what happens. And, like, I think one of the, this brings up another a goal that I would love is, like, in 2024 we had a lot of CEOs and, like, presidents, founders on our,
absolutely
on our show, which is great.
That's what we were trying to.
Right. But, like, and I would love to have more of a presence of people who are up and coming in the industry. Like,
yeah, that's a good. Hey, maybe so we focused on women in parking. Maybe we split it this year and we have nobodies.
I mean, let's not call them nobodies.
Sorry,
you know,
nobodies.
You get it. Yeah, no, we're definitely not going to call them nobodies, but like these are people who are making a really big wave.
We'll call them the somebodies.
They're making a really big wave in the industry and doing great things.
Okay,
and
so you hear it. We're looking for the nobody somebody. Reach out to us. info@parkingtalk.com. There you go.
I thought you were testing me. I thought you were looking at me, but
you
really forgot.
I didn't forget. I'm having
okay.
these moments more often. I should probably get my brain checked out.
Maybe just take vitamins or something. I don't know. I mean,
okay.
I think that's extreme. Step one.
Step one. I think it's because I don't drink the amount of beer I used to.
I know.
Honestly, I think that's a problem. I think that's the problem.
I mean, it's good that
I should start drinking more beer. Anyway, so your long-term goal is, does it align with mine?
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Well, this is...
baby.
This is...
Give me 5.
Yeah.
There's
that table's actually
for Chris Connolly.
Yeah.
If you're listening out there.
Oh, Chris.
I know.
It's Chris. Okay. So we are about 40 minutes into the show and we still haven't gotten to our topic. And we said before...
We are, but you know what? Before we do this, Dani, we have some great new sponsors. Thank you, Spot Hero. Thank you, Laney Solutions. Thank you. We couldn't do this without you guys. So, and of course, Laz Parking and PRS and Azura. So, let's start this part of the show. I want to call it pioneering through the evolution of technology in the parking industry, because I feel like first of all, I've never seen, there's always been litigation surrounding like employees, your traditional, your slip and falls, all of that stuff that's related to parking operations, accidents, valet crashes, all that. But now there's a whole slew of new lawsuits, whether it be deceptive trade practices, whether it be DPPA, FDCPA, so there's a whole evolution of technology that, in my opinion, cities, governments all over the country don't understand what's happening. And so City X, I could name 20 cities because we're all over the country and most of it's the same, but you've got people that are, calling and saying, well, all these complaints surrounding parking have gone up. And it's like, well, that's because the technology now is, one, holding people accountable. Accountability on private property and parking, surrounding parking 24/7, right? Whereas before, I'm just talking about the compliance side. So that's created attention. So you might have had 300 complaints in a city, and now you have thousands. And that's because you've increased compliance enforcement 24/7, and it's without fail.
But
right?
And it's not only like you're increasing compliance like 24/7, right? You're increasing assets that are being enforced.
Right.
Like you're not like now people are following and like understanding. Like one of the things that I think a lot of asset holders today are starting to realize is that parking makes real money. And if you're not charging, if you're not enforcing around your asset, you are losing you're leaving a lot of money on the table and you're losing a lot of money,
right? Think about it though. It's not, it's a loss because think about what's happened over since COVID. Property tax has gone through the roof, through the ceiling for property owners. Right. So you've got that. You've got maintenance costs, you've got everything. So if you're not charging on that asset and truly you're giving it away, it's not only you're not making money, you're losing money. You still have to provide lighting. You still have to do asphalt. You still have to do cleaning.
You still have to do the basics in order to avoid the lawsuits of the world, right? Because
cleaning up potholes, doing everything. So there's maintenance associated with that, which is a cost. So you're at a negative cost. So some people want to just charge to maybe break even, right? But then but again, I think the costs have gone up so much that it's taxes. I mean, it's everything. So now that you've got technology that's taken, it's gone through the, it's just like a rocket ship. So now it's creating attention to our industry. You've got Congress now that's focused on junk fees, which they're coming after parking. They already have. There's several parking operators that are in a deceptive trade practice, and that's because when I pull on the lot, and we see it with the AGs, I mean, they focus on this. So you have people that pull on the lot and they scan a QR code. The sign on the lot says $20, but they're paying $22. And so what I'm trying to educate people right now is it's, because some people are like, yeah, we'll put up a sign. We're going to put up a sign and say, it's $20 plus whatever fees associated with paying online. That may work for the next 6 months, but I can tell you the way we deal and how closely we are with the AGs across the country, that ain't going to matter.
And I think
Congress is focused on those fees, and they refer to them as junk fees.
Right.
And so it'll be challenging for operators to have to restructure their contracts, and it'll be challenging for everybody, payment providers. It's challenging for us. The convenience fees, if somebody pays online right now, you're charging them a convenience fee. All that shit, if you're out there doing that, rethink and regroup and reevaluate, because they're coming after you.
Well, I don't think that it's not. I mean, the convenience fee is not just a parking industry.
Oh yeah, they've already restaurants. That's restaurants. They're already targeting them.
But any ticket that you purchase, whether it's from a ticket platform that is
the airlines were just testifying in front of Congress,
absolutely,
over junk fees.
But and they call them junk fees, convenience fees. But those, as long as you can justify exactly what those convenience fees are, is where now a lot of states and municipalities and different, operations asset owners they're like, as long as we can break it out and exactly explain what the convenience fee is for, then it's
so I think people are
but people don't want to.
But I'm telling you, the messaging that we're getting back from the AGs, because we're dealing with these people.
You have to define what AGs to people who are listening,
attorney
who don't know
generals of states. So I don't think they care whether you spell it out. They don't. In their mentality is it should be a one fee, one stop shop for the customer. Make it as less confusing for the customer as possible.
A convenience fee. That's why it's called convenience.
I know, but what they're in their mind, if you're going to pay for parking, it should be $25. The sign should say $25, and that's it.
Do you think
whether you have a little fine print sign on the lot, they don't give a shit.
So do you think wrapping the convenience fee or
into the overall price of parking, and that's why
what I'm saying. So it's like, yesterday the lot was 25, today it's 28 because the price has changed, and then you just wrap it into that.
Because convenience fees are all wrapped in, but this is going to be the challenge for operators. Their contract with the owner, if you raise the rate to 20 to 23 to cover your fees, then the owner is going to consider that their money. And I can guarantee you, I'm not going to guarantee you, but I would bet a 12-pack of beer that there's a lot of owners that don't know that some of these fees are being charged on the back end. So that becomes a challenge. Now, as an operator, you're going to have to restructure your contract to spell that out, and we're going to be in a very difficult, at least from an operator will be, they're going to be in a challenging time because they're going to have to start to re-educate, but they have all these legacy contracts. It's very messy, and it's crazy. And this is why we said when we were going to talk about this topic, people that are operating in a silo, and we need to bring our industry together. We all need to be on the same page. Our messaging needs to be on the same page. We need to develop best practices for everything. So if you're payment providing, if you're hiring a payment provider, there should be best practices. And that way, this is what we do. This is the standard. And that can help you present that to your client, and say, hey, we got to restructure because we have best practices. Here's what we're doing. We're saving you from these potential lawsuits. I mean, the attorneys are, it's just the scumbags throughout the country. And yeah, you can listen to my podcast.
Out for blood.
And I'm sure they'll come out after me even more than they already do, but it's disgusting. And so, and that's why Europe is so great. It's like if you file a lawsuit against somebody and you lose, you pay. And that's another thing. I mean, we're out of control over here. But anyway, it's hard
over
to do.
Here. We're talking about
the U.S. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to do business here. It's absolutely crazy. Some of the frivolous, malicious lawsuits that are filed are just stupid.
Yeah.
Right? So I think our industry needs to come together. That's my message. The messaging needs to be the same. We need to have best practices. So I can tell you in the compliance sector, we have a group that we're forming. We've probably been meeting for the last almost a year now. So we've developed, we've taken the European, specifically the UK, because they went through all this. And so they developed best practices. So we took their document and kind of Americanized it. And so I think we're getting to the point where we're going to form a pack or whatever you want to call it, and we're gonna help be together, which means messaging, everything.
Yeah. Well, and
best practices, and have an organization that can now represent that part of the industry, right? And there'll be challenges with that because obviously whoever contributes the most gets their point, whatever burning issue they have, they're going to want. But it's like anything, it'll all work itself out. But I think it'll be best for the industry. I was hoping that like an IPMI, I know they do. I just got an email from Christine about some legislative issue, but I wished. And that's why I went to Winter Leadership like 3 or 4 years ago when it was in Cabo Cabo.
Was it Cabo? I thought it was LA.
No, it was down in Cabo, but it was on the San Jose side.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great. But my point was to try to get messaging out because we knew stuff was coming down for a while. I've been saying it. Anybody who knows me, our industry has been completely out of control in my space. You have companies that don't know anything about what they're doing, just hanging up a camera and sending out notices. They have no idea what DPPA is. They got no idea the liability that goes into this, right down to the messaging on your sign. I mean, it's so critical.
And
there's so many bad players. There's so many bad players.
So I think that this is the importance of the message as well, John. And I think you make a great point is that the industry currently doesn't do that well with plain and nice together. If you are compliant or if you're a payment platform,
if we're going to survive. Right, I mean, I can tell you right now, not to interrupt, but I can tell you right now, when I go to bed, I think about. There's a possibility people don't like to pay for parking.
No one likes to pay for parking.
More and more, the bureaucrats and the legislators are inching and chiseling away at paid parking in general. It's not about compliance. I think they would love to see nobody charge for parking. I mean, look at Denver, for example. You can't boot, you can't tow. And I think they would be happy taking ticketing away, right? And so what is a private property's recourse for people not paying? There is none. And so they would love it if it was free parking everywhere. Well, that's not reality. So I think there's two realities.
Everybody would love that. I don't think it's just like municipalities,
but it's right. I think there's two realities. I think once legislators and bureaucrats realize who owns these properties, they're the ones paying the bills for the city.
Right.
They're the developers. They're the landowners. They're the people that are paying those big tax bills.
But back to my point is that if we don't come together as an industry, there's a there's a great possibility that if we don't go together to bat for our industry, we're not going to win at the end of the day, right? Like that's the thing, is that like if we keep going out there and doing things against issuing violations against,
or the convenience fees for payment providers, because I know that's not on everybody's radar screen right now, but it should be.
But and 100% across across the industry, but like if we don't go up to bat for each other and together, like I think that's where we're making our biggest mistake.
Right. I mean, honestly, I'll give you an example too. So let's just say we're in some kind of, battle with a city government or a state government, right? And the end result is there's some messaging that comes out of the city government or the press, and it's completely false from reality.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do as a company? Individually, I'm going to come out with an opposition statement, and then I have a target on my back, right? Like, so I could just say, oh, well, the city's lying. That's not really how it went down. And here's the document that shows that's not how it went down, right? Then all of a sudden I'm a lone voice. It's kind of like pissing in the wind, right? And so what better opportunity to have an organization that's nationwide that represents all of us, and all of a sudden the organization gives a statement. Then it's not any one company. It's not Metropolis. It's not, these people. It's not Laz. It's not these people giving a statement. It's on behalf of everybody. So not one entity has a target.
That's what I'm saying, is that like if we don't get together to do those types of, if we don't get together to do those things, and like we got to go together as an industry versus go against each other.
I mean, that's the kind of collaboration I'm talking about.
100%.
How cool would that be? Right?
I mean, you guys are making it happen, right?
Yeah, well, we're making it happen in this sector, but it needs to be It needs to be broader,
right?
Because it's not just about I may be focused on compliance, but there's other people that are going to be focused on payments and payment fees and all that stuff.
I think that you guys are setting the example for the industry, which is great, and I hope that like we work collaboratively together, like as an industry, to ensure that like we're taking the proper steps forward to create these groups. Yeah,
that's right. Because I think it's important. And again, back to it'd be great to say, hey, look, City X or AG X, here's what we do as an industry. Here's our best practices. And here's a list of all the people that have adopted those best practices. Here's a list of all the people that are participating in this organization. And oh, by the way, you've got 2 people on your target list that aren't a part of this organization. And those are the bad players that now we could work with that as an industry, because right now it's just chaos. And bad players are getting everyone else who are trying to do the right thing are mucking up the waters for everybody else. So it's kind of like, okay, you don't want to adopt these best practices. You don't want to do this. You don't want to participate in this organization. You're on your own.
And I think it's...
And oh, by the way, we'll give the AG your name. Not really,
but like, I think that there are so many advantages to like creating these groups within the industry, because guess what? Like group like C might not have the same resources as group A, right? And as we know, it's not municipalities, but like different states, different cities have different rules and regulations. And some of like group C might know that, but group A does. And if you are in this, together and you're going up to bat together, guess what?
That's right. You're stronger as a group.
You're stronger as a group than you are individually.
Exactly. So we saw this in the debt collection industry about 7 years ago. There was an organization down in Florida that got into a lawsuit that didn't have the resources to hire a good firm. They wound up losing, which affected everybody else. And I'll tell you what it was. It was you no longer could send out debt collection. Like people send out debt collection letters. How it works is, or any letter, they'll send it to a mailing house that focuses on that. So you send files, and then they create letters, and then they go out, right, in mass quantities. And so that's what they're good at. That's what they do at. So this organization lost, and so now there's case study, or there's a case to point to, and it hurt the whole industry. So now everyone that was, and we were a part of this. We went out and spent $50,000 on our own equipment, and it was, you couldn't send out those you couldn't send those letters out from a third party anymore. That was huge to that industry, and it cost people a bunch of money. So the moral of that story is, you've got these little guys that can't defend themselves, and then they get a bad ruling that affects everybody. And so that, again, back to collaboration.
Collaboration.
I mean, that's where,
like, if you collaborate,
if that little guy was a part of the organization, well, guess what? The organization has legal. They've battled cases, so they can help that little organization, so the industry in itself doesn't take another hit with a bad ruling, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well,
so this has been, I don't know, I could sit here and talk for another 2 hours.
I mean, I know this is the thing, is that you and I can go back and forth about so many different things, like industry or not like industry related, right? But I think that earlier we had brought, we brought up that there are a lot of different entities that we think are battling what we do, battling our industry directly, right? And that's...
You mean battling the forces against our industry?
Correct.
There's multiple right now. The list is
right, and that's
pretty long. There's big and small.
Yeah, big and small, and that comes from a outside perspective and an inside perspective. I think I've
actually gotten calls from industry veterans and professionals that said, "Hey, man, like, what's going on in our industry? I feel like parking's being targeted right now." And
but nobody, and like, this is the thing, and nothing has changed much about it, but nobody likes paying for parking. Like, even I would say professionals inside the industry fucking hate paying for parking. They really do.
I like it.
I pay for parking anywhere and everywhere I go if I can, because to me, I'm all about convenience, right? Normally I'm running anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes late anyway.
Wait a minute.
So
you said did you guys just hear that? Dani said she's about convenience.
I am about convenience.
You said you were about brand loyalty.
I am about brand loyalty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm about brand loyalty. Like, I do my research. If it's one thing that I am thorough with, it's my research of where I'm going to park. And if I can't find the brand that I want to park with, then I'm about convenience. But mostly it's about valet. So I valet my car all the time. Like, whether it, like...
Well, let's get something straight here. When you talk about brand loyalty, is that like valet and where you go at the airport parking and stuff like that?
Yeah, but I think, like, even locally, like in Denver, I'm pretty loyal to one parking operator,
right?
Depending on where I go, because I know.
You gonna tell us who it is?
And I've always
just kidding.
Well, no, because but I am, because I'm so familiar with. They're consistent. This is a thing. I do want to reiterate. Like, I am consistent across a lot of things that I do, right? Like, I'm consistent with my hotel brands, who I fly with, and I like consistency because I know what I'm getting into, right? Yep. I don't like showing up and being fucking surprised with something that I've never used, a technology that I've never used. And I think from time to time, like, operators go with the lowest bidder for like technology, which I don't think is the right way to go about things.
I totally
agree.
And
so I'm about consistency. So I know when I park with this particular operator, I know what I'm getting into. And that's just like, I know.
You don't have to do anything new.
Right.
You have whatever you need.
I know.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I know. So
that makes sense.
I'm pretty thorough when it comes to
I would
research,
say if you're just going for the lowest bid these days, watch out, because it'll wind you up into a world of hurt with regulators and lawsuits.
That's a whole different, like, we could do that on a whole different, we could have that topic on a whole different episode, right? Like, we can take a deep dive into loss of revenue and because it gets up, and so that's
downtime, all kinds of different things.
Right, but so I do think that there's aside from my brand loyalty and my convenience, like I'm all about convenience and brand loyalty when I can provide it.
Right.
I do think that there is a battle. There always has been a battle. I definitely don't mind paying for parking. But like I said, I think a lot of even industry professionals hate paying for parking, and I've seen it firsthand. And to me, it's something like I always feel like I'm giving back to the industry, right? Where I'm like, no. Like I get more parking tickets than I think like I've said this before, than anybody in this industry. And I tell you all the time, you could probably pull my license plate up and I have multiple outstanding tickets.
Oh my God, we're going to boot you.
But I do find.
So do you do that when you're on your rental cars too?
I don't rent cars.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I really don't. It's funny. I Uber everywhere when I travel and I go from venue to venue. If I have to drive,
I've started doing that.
I just don't. It's not convenient to me. I don't know.
I'll do it when I want to drive. I want to drive around and survey different cities and stuff. I'll rent a car for that.
Normally, I travel with someone who rents a car, and then I'm at the mercy of them.
I wanted to see if you do it while you're renting a car, then it just comes right off your credit card.
Yeah, I will either way. If I'm responsive, if I'm the person behind the wheel, and whether it's my own car or a rental car,
right?
Yeah, I pay for parking. I take tolls. It's not it's not something that I'm trying to avoid. Like I said, I'm about convenience. So
right,
and I don't. That's just my opinion. But
well, we've covered the 24th season. We both revealed what our favorite show was. I'd be interested to hear what our listeners, what their favorite show was. And you can send that to info@parkingtalk.com. Be good feedback.
Yeah, we get some feedback, but we would love to,
I get the verbal feedback.
Yeah. We really want.
I want to hear from people that we don't hear from.
But also, if you have any episode topic ideas, please send them our way.
We want the nobody somebodies. So if you're a nobody somebody,
pretty sure we'll change the title on that. But
if you're a nobody somebody, we want to talk to you.
We would love to hear. We want to know what you want us to talk about. If you have any guest recommendations, please let us know. Info@parkingtalk.com. You can always reach out to myself or John directly. We're both on LinkedIn. I'm sure most of the people have our contact info, whether it's our phone number or our email. So please reach out. Let us know.
Do you want me to give your phone number out, Dani?
I really don't think that you know it, but
I probably don't. It's programmed.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
You lose your phone.
I lose my phone all the time.
I know my wife's number, and I know my dad's number, and I know my daughter's number, but even my mother.
Yeah.
And my brothers, I don't know their number off the top of my head.
This would be a really great topic of conversation with the person that you met earlier, because the first night we were supposed to go on a date. I lost my phone, and he thought that I stood him up.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that's a topic for another time, but
that's the 2-call rule. Yeah. I had a 2-call rule.
What's a 2-call rule?
So if I called somebody and I didn't hear back from them, I would call one more time and leave a voicemail, and if I didn't hear back from them, that was it. I mean, because I get to me, it was I got the message.
If you lose your phone,
that's
you
why
can't
you
check
have a
your
2-call
voice.
rule.
You can't.
That's why you have a 2-call rule, because you'll eventually find your phone and then call, right?
No, I never found my phone. I had to get a new phone.
Did you have the person's number?
No.
Wow. So that's one of those moments that my 2-call rule could have been devastating.
Oh, I didn't. I lost my phone. I didn't get a new phone until I was actually back in Denver.
They'll find a way to connect now, right?
Email.
Yeah. Email or LinkedIn.
I mean, I had my computer, and so that was, but it was. I lose my phone all the time.
I always had the saying: if they want to be with you, they're going to be with you. If they don't want to be with you, they don't want to be with you. That's the 2-call rule.
2-call rule. I don't know. The 2-call rule doesn't work though if you lose your phone and you don't get your phone back, because then you don't have the opportunity to check your email or your voicemail.
Yeah.
So I don't know, John. I think that you don't need to change it anymore because you're happily married.
I know. I revealed my 2-call rule.
Another topic for another time. So
anyway, well, it's I've enjoyed just doing it. The show again, just us. It was good. And stay tuned because we got some exciting guests coming up, as we said, and we'll be at Pi. So I think you guys should come to Pi. It'll be our first recorded live audience. We don't really have an audience in the studio, so
sometimes we do. It depends on the guest.
That's right.
I think we only had one for Mark Jackson, but
that's right.
So
anyway,
all right. Well, we'll see everyone soon.
We'll see you next time in parking.